What's up, guys? Thursday night. Let's make this fun. Like we do almost every night now. I'm addicted to TikTok. Spreading Judaism. God, TikTok makes it easy. It's like Coca-Cola. It sells itself. I have this old list here of topics I have to refresh. I've been talking on these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 topics all week. Let's see. Welcome, shalom. I'm going to go through some of these questions here. Guys, like the show. Thank you for liking the show. Like the show, follow the host. Like and follow. The more people who like it, the crazier people who show up. And that's why you guys are here, unfortunately, to watch a train wreck. That may never occur. Okay, ordained by Catholic Church, but as you approved elders, I don't know what that means. Shalom. Shalom, Moshe. Let's see. Let them in. Let them all in. Hazak truth. My friend Ruben Chaim. Let them all in. Thursday night. This is like Friday night for Jews. Secular Friday night. At least in Israel. Thursday night is like, the evil night. This is one yeshiva, they invented this whole thing called Mishmar to keep you off the streets of Ben Yehuda and Crack Square. Look that up. Okay, I was making a joke anyways. How does one become a rabbi? Was the question. That's a good question. The procedure has been changed up after a while. Everyone who's alive today with the title rabbi is a fake rabbi, including myself. Yes, I have smicha. I have 2, actually. I actually have 3, but I already mentioned 2. Just because I'll let you torture these 2 people for giving me smicha, not the 3rd guy. But the reason everyone's a fake rabbi is because real ordination ceased to exist. Well, that's when the Sanhedrin disappeared. Yeah. So yes, I'll go back to that question after we quickly interview the Reno kid. What's up, man?
What up?
Hi. I don't think they ever called it the Holy Land. Am I familiar? Because I know the Catholic Church considered Rome, the Vatican, as holy, and like the Holy Land. I mean, I know there's a lot of relics there, Catholic relics, but I don't know if they use that term Holy Land. Maybe that may have been a term used during the Crusades, but I know the Pope never officially recognized Jerusalem because traditionally, Catholics believe in replacement theology. They believe, rightly so, that, I would say if someone only believed in the New Testament alone, they would come to that conclusion. If you tried to balance the New Testament with what Christians call the Old Testament, then I think you get a more accurate view of Christianity. So I don't know what Catholics view the Holy Land. It's holy in the sense of all the cool things that happen within it. But I think to the average Catholic, it doesn't carry much theological weight to it, I think.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, let's see. You too. Doesn't that kid sound like the little kid from 7 Years in Tibet? Yellowhead. Okay. That's better. What does that mean? Much better. What are you talking about? My friend Courtney critiquing as she goes along. Let's see. Theism is dangerous. Could be. In some cases it is. I would think atheism is more dangerous. So there you go. Okay. Everything's dangerous. A spoon could be dangerous. But what's more dangerous, a knife or a spoon? Atheism opens your mind to the actual truth. I don't know. I don't like using the word truth on the show. Rabbi, like Jewish, what does that mean? Jews can't be the chosen ones when they don't accept Jesus as the Son of God. Guys, I'm just reading this. This is not my quote. All right. Some people just, I think they have this on a copy and paste. Rabbi Asher, do you know much about the Third Temple? I hear they have already ordered the red for what? The rituals. The red for the rituals. What does that mean? The red what? I can't speak on Judaism or Christianity, though. 2 eyes. Hold on. Okay. Oh, well, the red heifers. They ordered the red heifers? What are being ordered? There's always some flawless red cow floating around. I don't think that's what's keeping people from building the third temple. They just don't want to do it. Yeah. And I don't want them to do it. Not now. Let them wait till they get their act together. Last thing I need is someone, misrepresenting Judaism in front of the whole world. Imagine some guy in a strimo there offering a sacrifice. Come on, guys. Can't even treat converts right. Judaism is good, but not Zionism. I don't, I agree from a religious perspective, but even from a religious perspective, I would take a secular Zionist government to a religious Islamic one. So I don't know. Let's see. Hey, man, are you bloodline? I am not bloodline. Boy, I hope that term never becomes a thing. Hey, I'm already Jewish. Okay. I hope you're keeping, a Torah lifestyle. I know that the Torah is divided into 3. What does that mean? But is it true that some doubt, if at all, if it's from God? I mean, there's always doubt. What are you talking about? If we knew for a fact, it'd be a lot easier to make converts. Do you ever debate atheists in here? I do constantly. I debate anyone in here. This is, consider me like a human pincushion or punching bag. How Jewish and not bloodline? Here you go. I mean, this must be. How do you not have a avatar? Because you can be Jewish without having Jewish blood, whatever that means. You could convert to Judaism. That's what it says right up there. Christians are treated like trash in Israel. I don't think that's true, by the way. I remember the first time I went to Israel. Boy, I knew nothing, right? Did I tell you a story about the whorehouse? I ended up in a whorehouse. It's not what you think. Or maybe it is what you think. But I was walking down Ben Yehuda. All right, this is like 2002, 2003. And there's Christians all over the place, by the way. This idea that they're like not allowed. Christians are highly protected in Israel, and in particular in Jerusalem. I'll tell you the whorehouse story different. I mean, it's not. I asked the cab driver to take me to the cheapest hotel, and he took me to some whorehouse. I didn't know it was a whorehouse. I was upstairs the whole time, with a black hat. It shows what I know, right? And then as I was asking around for like yeshivas and stuff like that, they asked me, where you staying? I'm like, it's called Hotel Itzik. It was in Nachlaot, right by the Shuk. And they're like, it's a whorehouse, right? I'm like, I just, I did see a lot of Russian women downstairs, but whatever. And then from there, I went to the Heritage House, which is still there. They just moved locations. It's a free hostel for like Jewish kids looking for a school to learn in Israel. So, so when I got there in the beginning, like always in Ben Yehuda, there's always like someone suffering from what's called Jerusalem syndrome. Oh, we should talk about that. Jerusalem syndrome. It's the weirdest thing. There's always like some lady dressed all in white with like gold sequence writings on her back, like I'm the Messiah, or some guy dressed like the high priest walking down the street with a staff. This is called Jerusalem syndrome. It's a real thing. And anyways, back then I fancied myself more of a counter missionary. I'm not anymore. But I went up to the guy and I was trying to talk to him, and like he wasn't paying attention to me. I mean, he was like in the zone, yelling on the top of his lungs, repent, Jesus is coming, da da da. So I tapped him on the shoulder, and then the Israeli police rushed me because Christians are protected. You're not allowed to touch them, and you're not really allowed to like yell at them and confront them like in any aggressive manner. And I wasn't aggressive, but fine. This idea that Christians are treated badly, it's not true. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of people in Israel aren't even religious. And I would say that secular Jews treat Christians very nicely, very nicely. I would say, being that the reason Israel survives is because of American dollars. And when I say American dollars, I mean American Christians pouring so much money into Israel, visiting Israel. I mean, when the average Jew didn't want to visit Israel, the Christians did. The Christian Zionists. Christians are more Zionists than Jews are. Most people don't know that. Yeah, Christians are not mistreated in Israel. This whole law that they were trying to pass, they always try to pass these stupid laws every year. They never pass. There was a stupid law that was actually backed up by Shas, which is, I mean, these Haredi parties are completely useless. They're only there to pander for more like welfare for like if you have a lot of kids, right? But they prostitute themselves to the other parties, and they're completely useless. Well, they were even like for like giving back Gush Katif and a bunch of issues that someone who would be a religious Zionist, which I was when I made Aliyah, would have an issue with. But yeah, they were trying to pass a law that converts would not be allowed to make Aliyah. These freaking idiots. I mean, they politicize conversion enough, right? Now they're really going to make a big distinction between a convert and a born Jew. Of course, it never passed. I mean, they tried to pass it a few times. But these are like Haredi parties in some way kowtowing to Haredim. Not that they hate, okay, Haredim may hate Christians, but not Israelis. The average Israeli is probably, I would say the average Israeli appreciates a Christian more than he appreciates a Haredi Jew. And this is facts, people. Most people don't know this. Guys, like the show, follow the host, like and follow. There's a huge division in Israel between Haredi, i.e. ultra-Orthodox, or even Orthodox, and secular Jews. They hate each other. You would think with all the, I don't know, people uniting on TikTok, arguing IP, right, Israel-Palestine, that Jews love Jews because, I don't know, Chabad says so, right? A Jew is a Jew. Nonsense. That's bullcrap. This is a joke. If you go to Israel, Haredim look at what they call Chilunim as Gentiles, 100%, right? And Chilunim view Haredim like parasites. I mean, this is 100%. And there's no achdut or whatever that people yell at the top of their lungs like Jews unite. Nonsense. It doesn't exist in Israel. So yes, I would say that the average secular Israeli appreciates Christians more than they appreciate Haredi Jews. Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's Christians who go to Israel and they serve in the military, while most Haredim are against it. Right now, they've made some strides into the military. You have Nahal Haredi and the whole Hesder yeshiva program, which is like you learn half the day in yeshiva and then you train half the day. But it's like a drop in the bucket. It's yeah. Okay, Law, I'm an introvert. Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm a full introvert who has trained myself because no one else is giving over this message, right? I don't do anything that anyone else does. I would say most of my stuff is unique, right? Is original, right? This is why I do it, but it's not. I'd rather be huddled up under a tree with a book and a fresca. All right, but you're still ducking me on the rabbi question. You said you'd answer. What are you talking about? Hold on. I wasn't even looking at this thing. I'm going back to see what the question was. You asked the question again. He is a real rabbi. He got an honorary title? Who's honorary? What are you talking about? Is it me? Yeah. No, I mean, a few smichas. And anyways, who cares? It doesn't... I'm here. I challenged anyone on TikTok to debate me. I've debated more people. Like if I'm a rabbi, to toot my own horn, I know a lot for not being a rabbi, right? Okay, right. Here, repeat your question. Rabbis giving herpes to babies? Herpes to babies, huh? Whenever I hear like an absurd term, I always think that'll be a great rock band name. Herpes to baby. Take care, Asher. Okay, take care, Moshe. All right. Let's see. Oh, do you want me to respond to your herpes to baby thing? Most moils don't do that, by the way. But they use a syringe. So the reason it was done in the past was for the same reason it's done nowadays, for health reasons, to help in some way coagulate the blood. But for some reason, that sounds like too far-fetched, right? Everything has to be sexual with you guys. And granted, this is like Well, the subheader of the show is TST, as my wife would say, Torah Sex Talk, because all the perverts that come up here and use my show as their own amusement park. Okay, is there racism in Israel? There's racism everywhere on this planet. Okay, is it a huge problem? No. Let's see. There are Jews from every ethnicity, every race, size, right? There's good-looking Jews, there's ugly Jews, there's big Jews, there's small Jews. So that's not an issue. Now, there were some protests in the past about, I think, Sudanese that have snuck into Israel. And you would see them in Tel Aviv floating around, this and that. And the Israelis were protesting about that. And some Israelis were protesting against the Ethiopians because of, some Israelis, because they made up the lower part of the economic threshold in Israel. It's just the way it is. I mean, I spent some time in Kiryat Malachi, where there's tons of Ethiopians. But anyways, fine. We don't proselytize. This is likely a LARPer. All right, Dirty Shekel. That's your name? Your name is Dirty Shekel, and you're telling me that you know enough about Judaism to tell me that you know that we don't proselytize? There's nothing in Judaism that prohibits proselytizing. But of course, this is an open platform. I don't expect everyone to have 1,000 followers, but you may know some rabbi that has 1,000 followers that could put me in my spot already. Oh my gosh, it would be so easy to shut me up. Just disprove that proselytizing is against Judaism. And once you start realizing it's not against Judaism, you realize that, you know what? It'd probably be a good idea if we had more Jews in the world, huh? Just makes more sense. Supply and demand, anything. I mean, I'm a conservative. I wish there were more conservatives in the world. All of the above, fine. You have to be taught otherwise to think it's a bad idea. The term Judaism is modern. The Hebrew isn't the same as biblical. The term is Yaduhite. What the heck is that? Judahite? You mean Yehudi? Okay. What's the difference between rabbi and rebbe? So nothing, because it comes from the same root word. But colloquially, a rebbe, well, it depends. Like if you're in yeshiva, they'll ask you who your rebbe is, right? So that's what's called a Rav Muvhak. A Rav Muvhak is someone who, like, your mentor rabbi. Also, if you're a student, you're called a Talmud Muvhak. A rebbe in the Hasidic world means what they call an admor. An admor is Adonenu, Morenu, V'Rabbeinu. And if you're Lubavitch, they'll say Melech HaMashiach L'Olam Va'ed. So that is a completely different species. It has nothing to do with the first definition. This is some sort of Ubermensch in the vast majority of cases, unless you're Satmar. I mean, Satmar is of the opinion that they don't elevate their rebbes like others do. Welcome, Ruvain.
Hey, Asher, how are you?
Slava Bogu. Хорошо.
You've been going live late this week.
I know. Yeah, no, I noticed. I mean, I thought the freaks come out at night, but they come out in the daytime, actually. Like on Sunday, I think I went live like at 1, and it was like live, right? But the real word was coming out at midnight. I mean, it's always packed with Muslims. Okay, let's see. The term LARPer is quite derogatory. Yeah, no, they're saying that I'm a wannabe. You know why? Because I'm so nice and welcoming. That's what it is. And because I look like, I don't know, like I sing reggaeton. Let's see, better than Islam? The what?
So can't please everybody.
Oh, I don't even try. I told a friend of mine today that I'm built for this. I'm built for the hate. You know, I'm like, what am I like? What's that superhero that, like, the more you punch him, like, the stronger he gets? It's like I take your power and then I just...
There's few of those. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, like he sort of absorbs your power and then he, like, shoots it back at you.
Yeah, Bishop on the X-Men was like that, I think. They absorb kinetic energy, but I don't remember who else. I got to think about it. I know there's few like that.
Yeah. All right. So what are the guidelines of essentially Uvdin Lechol? It's completely subjective. This is the whole notion of something being Shabbistic. The idea of, when someone says is Udin Lechol, like, you just, like, if you're gonna play tennis on Shabbos, like, have a Shabbos tennis racket, or if you're gonna ride bike on Shabbos, have a Shabbos bike. All right, the whole chain falling off, putting air in the tire thing, that's a nuance. For all the Sfardim out there who take the Ben Ish Chai on a higher level than I do, he says that you can ride a bike on Shabbos. So there are no set guidelines for even Morris Hayan, really. Even this is, I think, more controversial. There are no set guidelines for muksa, technically. The understanding is that Morris Hayan, muksa, uvdin lechol, all this stuff is what Chazal said these things were. In other words, when the Chazal create a shvut, like a completely rabbinic prohibition to safeguard a Torah prohibition, or a prohibition that's on a higher level, it's limited to what they actually prohibit. So if Chazal said something is muksa, it's what they meant what muksa is. Because now they're like, well, you can't touch that because it's muksa. What do you mean? I mean, this didn't even exist in the time of Chazal. Like, who are we to say what muksa is, or what's Morris Hayan, right? So when they say Mari Tayan, they mean that you're doing something that's not technically wrong, but it might lead someone else to think it's allowed, right? Like walking into McDonald's to drink coffee. The coffee in McDonald's is kosher. But they'll say if you walk in, some idiot is going to think that McDonald's is kosher, right? Well, too bad for that idiot. That's not Morris Hayan according to halakha. Now, I consider myself a halachic purist. I mean, I teach halakha from the Rishonim and before. I don't care what Achronim have to say. Meaning that this is how it was taught. The idea that it's up to us to make Judaism impossible by what some fanatic on YouTube decides that Morris Hayan is, or Uvdin Lechol is. You know how stupid it is? Like someone telling you that this is not Shabbistic just because they don't like it. All right? And that's every old, antiquated individual. Right? If they don't like, oh, you youngsters with that rap music, turn that crap off. It's this dummy online that Rabbi Mizrahi, and what they've already earned the title dummy, and like more than 3 people know this, so it's not lashon hara. Like if you really want to accuse me of that, they hold these sessions where they line people up and they cut their ponytails, like it's some Torah prohibition or rabbinic prohibition to have long hair. I mean, not in any halakha I've ever seen, but because they don't like it, they automatically prohibit it. So that's what you shouldn't do. There's a lot of things that I don't like that are technically allowed, but I'm not going to say it's not allowed just because I don't like it. So the worst thing they'll do is like, well, you look like a goy. I mean, what does that mean? I mean, there's some beautiful goyim, there's some ugly goyim. But I mean, what does that even mean? But the average person doesn't question. And that's what I'm here to fix. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to help you learn how to think in a halachic manner. Some things are allowed and some things are permitted. If something is not prohibited, it's technically allowed. It might not be a good idea to do, right? I mean, you could eat out like 1,000 cheeseburgers. Well, okay, bad example. 1,000 kosher hamburgers, right? It's not good for you, but it's technically allowed. I mean, have you seen what Jews eat anyways? Latkes, sufganiyot. I mean, this is not the healthiest food in the world. That's kosher. Is it good for you? I mean, have you been in a mikveh? You know how disgusting that water typically is, right? I mean, okay, it's only because something is allowed, it doesn't mean it's good, and only because something is prohibited doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just means you can't do it. So I know this line of reasoning is a little sophisticated, but essentially speaking about the teachers, we're dealing with dummies. So I mean, I have to speak like, yeah.
So what do you think about umbrellas on Shabbat?
So there's a prohibition of making a tent on Shabbos in Ohel. It might be a thing, being that they didn't have umbrellas back then. I mean, it's not a straight prohibition. So the practice typically is, in a Jewish community, you're never going to see people walking with umbrellas on Shabbos unless it's a British guy, right? Because over there, I mean, they walk with umbrellas in the desert. But I guess whatever, that could be for sun also, which would be an Isser on Shabbos, but I don't know how they get away with it. So in Orthodox communities, there were raincoats, always raincoats on Shabbos, and they even have like raincoats that fit over like their boat, like Borsalino or like a Strymel. It's like an attachment. You ever seen that?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a big shower cap. Like if there are any Jamaicans.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the whole setup. I'm just curious, like who would ever confuse an umbrella with a tent?
No, it's not the tent. It's the idea of building a tent, of erecting a tent. So there's some things that sound kind of stupid, but there's a thing to it. I mean, if someone did it, like, I wouldn't think it's a big deal. But if someone did feel that it was prohibited, it would make sense. I mean, I'm pretty Haredi, and the Haredi approach is to be a fundamentalist with halakha. The problem is with the average Haredi nowadays is uber Haredi. I mean, he starts poskening halakha from the Zohar and from Rebbes and stuff like that. So that has nothing to do with being Haredi. That's not ultra orthodox. That's just being silly. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't use an umbrella on Shabbos. More because I'm on the fence on the issue, but because this principle, suffix the right to lechumra, that if you're dealing with a Torah prohibition, you should be strict. I guess the bigger question is, are 39 categories of prohibitive labor a Torah prohibition? Yes and no. It carries the weight of Torah. Rabbinic laws carry Torah weight when they're responding to a Torah issue. If it's like a gezerah or takana, then it's fully rabbinic. Like you could be lakula on it, you could be lenient on it. But being that the 39 malachas, the 39 categories of prohibited labor are dealing with an actual Torah law that the death penalty is attached to it, right? I mean,
yeah.
Like if you're like a Machal Shabbos, you're Chayiv Misa. So this is why we're commanded to be stricter on that. And just to be safe, don't use an umbrella. There you go. I don't know.
I'm actually curious about one more thing. So I'm rereading
All right, continue.
Rereading Mishneh Torah.
Yeah.
And in the first book in Foundations, where it talks about prophecy, right? And it describes the prophets. And in one, I think it's like the part 9 on the Foundations, where it talks about that the prophet can temporarily change the Torah law.
Mm.
And I'm confused where does Rambam derive that from?
From Elijah.
Just because Elijah did the sacrifice outside of the temple, so therefore...
That's one example I believe he gives. I disagree with him, by the way.
Yeah, that's what he says there. But like, it seems weird because I thought like the whole point is that if the prophet tells you to do something different, then therefore he's the false prophet automatically. And it's kind of like a workaround, right?
Yeah, you're allowed to break Shabbos when nowhere in the Torah does it say that you're allowed to break Shabbos when you go to war. But if the prophet basically says go to war, because only the Urim Tumim, I guess we should have a whole class on that, on like the holy dice. Like you need those to determine if you have to fight what's called a Mechemet Mitzvah, like a war for the sake of survival versus a Mechemet Reshut, which is a war for the sake of expansion. That is already on a divine level, almost a prophecy. So if you're commanded to fight, no, was it? Well, anyways, yeah, it never made sense to me. It never made sense how the Rambam said that. I understand that he has to save face because the story of Elijah is understood to be important to us, and it would be a blatant contradiction that God validates a sacrifice in Mount Carmel when the Torah says that we're not allowed to build bamot, like high places outside of the place that God chose. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm just waiting for someone who says, like, if I know more than the Rambam, I just whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading that and it was just like I couldn't resolve it personally, like on a rational level,
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like too contradictory to me. It seemed like he was trying to find an excuse for Elijah.
Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, even Elijah never dying, and us assuming that he appears in every simcha, I don't think that was ever really accepted as like that by everybody. Even I think the Ibn Ezra writes in Sefer Bereshis when it talks about Enoch, that he says there that the language is not that he never died, but he gives examples on how the same language of God taking someone meant that this person was dead when he was taken. So it wasn't monolithic that up in heaven there's Elijah and Enoch, playing
Yeah.
dice or something. It's on the level of a medrash. Okay,
Mhm.
whatever appears in the writings essentially is on the level of a medrash. So we don't take midrashim literally. We shouldn't take that literally because the writings of the prophets can add anything to the Torah.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you want to take it literally, it's fine, but it don't like people shouldn't say that it's a principle of our faith that we believe this, that Elijah never died and was taken up to heaven in a chariot of fire. I don't know. I mean, I have a hard enough time justifying the Torah than to justify whatever, parts of,
Yeah.
not,
I
and
agree.
worse, to justify Midrashim. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, to me, like if I was that argument when I was reading it, it sounded so bad to me that like from the perspective that if I was a Christian, that would be the argument I would throw at every Jew. That, oh, here you go, that Maimonides says that prophets can change the law, so therefore Jesus could have changed the law.
Temporarily, he says. Only temporarily.
Yeah, but they could say, well, he changed it until he comes back again, right?
Yeah, but this is why I've painted myself in a pretty corner. But like people ask, like, why is Asher Meza so? Like, why do I hold ideas that most people don't hold? Only because I debate. Debating people have forced me to adjust my theology. It's easy to have stupid ideas if you never have to back them up. Okay, if you never have your ideas tested, you could believe the stupidest ideas. If you only give monologues over, you could say the silliest things. But if you're into dialogues, you're telling me Rabbi Mizrahi actually sat down and had people talking back and forth, not when he's reading in some pamphlet talking to a guy who wasn't even like a pastor or anything like that. It would sharpen their theology, even if they would debate other Orthodox Jews, right? Because they have these mock debates now between Orthodox Jews, but on trivial notions, like, I don't know, does God have feet or something stupid like that, right? But what I want to see is like the UFC, MMA of religious debates. I want to see a
Mm-hmm.
Reformed Jew against Todos Aaron, Hasid. I want to see a Litvak against a student of Shlomo Karabach. Like, that's how you're gonna learn. I mean, what's the nonsense and what's the meat, But Jews typically don't talk to people who disagree with them much, and this is why when they hear me talk to them, they just get pissed off and they freaking lose it. They're like, "Oh, fake," and that's the first thing they say. You're
Yeah.
fake. You're so strong. You're so beautiful. I want to take you to the movies. Well, that's what they tell me privately. But I'm married. Yeah. So if we had that more, then by definition, our theology would improve because Jews do the same thing as Christians. Christians constantly, when they're painted in a corner on why they do what they do, when it doesn't appear in the Bible, they'll say, because the Holy Spirit told me. I'm not saying most Christians, I'm not talking to educated Christians like Miss Courtney. Jews do the same thing. When they can't respond, they'll say, it's my Masorah, or it's, Torah Shabbat Peh. But it's an easy way out because you never have to justify what your Masorah is, right? Any Masorah that's not documented is disposable, guys. Okay? If someone has Masorah doesn't mean in the religious world, it doesn't really mean tradition. Okay? Because that's what some people think. Just because you've been doing something long enough is your Masorah. Nonsense. A Masorah is something that was passed down, an understanding that was passed down from Talmudic times, right? The Rambam removed any ambiguity in what's a halacha and what's not because he had a Masorah going back to what was an actual halacha by Chazal, right? I mean, but not only because you're used to saying something stupid over and over again doesn't qualify it for the level of Masorah. Like many Syrians will say, I mean, both Masorah and Minhag are misused because Minhag is also has to be instituted by Chazal. It's in the first chapter of Hilchos Mamrim, when the Rambam talks about the authority that the Beis Din HaGadol had. He said that they're the ones in charge of creating Gezeras, Takanas, and then he also says that they're responsible for Minhagim also, for establishing Minhagim. So it shows that the Sanhedrin is in charge of establishing Minhagim. It means that the Minhagim float around, and once the Sanhedrin ratifies the minhag, that's when it actually becomes binding. Because we have some halachas that started off as minhagim. Because someone will say, well, it says by Chazal, it says minhag Yisrael torachi, or minhag Yisrael techalacha, that like the customs of Israel are on the level of Torah, right? But that's only when the Sanhedrin, clearly, if it appears in the Mishnah, or if it's being quoted by an Amar in the Gemara, it's talking about people who have smicha. It's not talking about some idiot now saying that I'm a Syrian and it's my custom not to accept converts. And being that we're supposed, once someone says my minhag, my masora, it's equivalent to them saying the Holy Spirit told me, that we're supposed to leave them alone and give them a pass. Or another famous one is that my Rebbeim taught me like this, and like, oh, Talmud Chacham, you have Rebbeim. Like, come on, guys. If you can't back up what you believe with some source material, it's disposable. In the halachic world, in the rabbinic world, okay? No matter how cool your minhag may be.
Yeah.
All right. So, where's everybody at? We have a nice crowd, but nobody's hopping up. And someone just said BS, so I don't know what that means. We are hip to BS. What does that mean? Don't y'all think Judaism is better? So why excuse things if Christians do it? Okay. What did Jewish people think about Jesus? What does it have to do with? I mean, I'm reading this backwards, so.
No, when I see somebody being clearly like trying to be sneaky about being anti-Semitic, I just mute them.
Oh, that's right. You're a moderator too.
Yeah.
Have you?
I know all the comments ahead of time. I know exactly how they try to sound. Oh, what does this line in Talmud means? I know exactly what line they're going to bring up after that.
Right, animals. We're animals, and that, and like matzitza b'peh. I mean, that's all it is, right?
Yep, those two things always same exact story.
Perverted rabbis. All right, let's see. Will I be rich and hated by everyone? If what? If you converted? Possibly.
Yeah. You want to be rich and hated by everyone? Go ahead, convert.
All right. Well, someone's asking me where my smichas from. So I have 3 smichas. I'll give you 2 of them. I got 1 smicha from Rabbi Kolakowski. You could call him up. He has a video online saying he gave me smicha. Okay. So my second smicha is from Rabbi Jeff Seidel. I worked as a makarv. I still work for him technically in Israel and Hebrew U and stuff like that. And I learned in Aish and many yeshivas in Israel. And I worked in Kiru putting kids in yeshiva. So these rabbis know me. And I learned in Or Sameach. And I learned in many, like whoever's in Israel, they learn in dozens of yeshivas. The big question is where you dorm, right? I mean, that's your yeshiva, where you dorm. So I dormed in Aish. There you go. Next. Oh, well, that smicha is not worth anything. You know what else is not worth anything? Your mom. All right, next.
Every smicha is not worth anything.
Yes, right. I can't even pronounce it yet. How can you get into yeshiva? If you're Jewish, you don't even have to pay, right? I mean, they'll ask you, like, if you ever win the lottery, throw some money their way. But yeah, you have to show up. There's many doors that open for you once you're Jewish. Yeah. Let's see. Talmud says Jesus was born of adultery between a Roman called Pantera and a Jewish woman, Mary. Yeah, the Pantera story. That's, I believe, in Talmud Yerushalmi, that there was a Roman soldier called Pantera. It's not for sure if it's the same individual. Again, like the timelines are off on this thing in terms of. But
isn't that guy supposed to be that Yeshua was with the Pharisees in Egypt like 70 years after the time of Jesus? So it can't be him.
I don't know.
There's 3 different Yeshuas in the Talmud.
Right. There's Yeshua Notri. There's Ben Strada, like Yeshua Ben Strada, and then Ben Pantera. I don't know who's who. Right. It doesn't seem to be the same guy. Although this individual, I think it's also known as one of the students of Yeshua ben Prachia, and it says that he was practicing like dark magic. And this is the whole notion of that Yeshua ben Prachia pushed him away with both hands, and he's like, no, he should push him away with one hand and brought them close with the other. Yeah, guys, I don't justify, and clearly I don't speak for the whole Jewish world, but just from someone, I think I know halakha pretty well and Jewish literature pretty well. It's not justified what was done to Jesus in the New Testament. I don't believe Jews did this, by the way. And if it did, it would have been the Jews that were described in the New Testament, meaning corrupt Jews. what Jesus was calling hypocrites. And I don't believe in Jesus, but I have to be honest. I have to keep it real. Right? Jesus did not deserve the death penalty. And anyone who thinks he does, because some Jews are like, yeah, we killed him, is an idiot. Okay? Is an idiot. And even the Talmud talks about, yes, this individual, Yeshua Notru, was killed by seven different ways by the Sanhedrin, right? Which makes you think the Sanhedrin didn't have the authority to put anyone to death during Roman times. So some people think that this individual existed around 250 years before. Whatever, I mean, the name was very popular. I mean, Yeshua is more derogatory, but the name Yehoshua or Yeshua, right? The Hebrew versus Aramaic. So I think that it's wrong if the Jewish people. The truth is, Jewish leadership speaks for the Jewish people. Okay, if they did mistreat him, and I'm sure I mean, heck, I get mistreated. It's not that we're not perfect, but it was wrong for sure. So if people say, "Well, we killed Jesus," if that's the case, first of all, not one rabbi in the whole Talmud ever identified as a Pharisee. I guess most people don't know that. Right? Because I hear like Tovia Singer saying, like, justifying that we're like Pharisees. I mean, where'd you get this in the Talmud? It says nowhere. It makes fun of the Pharisees, by the way. It says there's 7 different groups of Pharisees, and it talks about them doing stupid things. There's something called the makos of the Pharisees. Like they do stupid things like running into walls because they refuse to look in the direction of a woman. They actually do things that Jesus said that they were doing, like praying out loud for attention and doing. I mean, they're like the ascetics of the time.
It doesn't say that they made like the tefillins bigger than they should be and the tzitzit longer than it should be.
I don't know if it says that, but it makes sense. I mean, people do that nowadays. I mean, have you seen Lubavitcher tefillin? I mean, they're like like a shoebox on your head. And but you'll typically get them for a good price. My tallis is a Lubavitcher or Munkacher tallis. There's nothing. Lubavitchers make the best talism. This thick wool. I mean, in South Florida heat, it's horrible, right? But it's so lush. There's nothing like yeah. Well, like if you're an amateur, you have like the polyester one, right? Like the Messianic tallis with the glitter all over your face, right? And guys, like, stay away from Stars of David, okay? From people, don't use Stars of David. That's like giveaway Messianic. Star of David on your kippah, forget about it. I mean, you might as well have a cross around your neck. What else? Orthodox people don't wear mezuzahs like on their neck, like on their necklace either. So don't use that. No Star of David's on your neck. I think it could work for girls. Like if a girl has a little Star of David, it looks cute. But for a guy, I mean, you're either like a Bukharian from New York who's not religious, right? And in that case, you have your chest open with all the hair and a big Star of David. But yeah, from people, even in their parochet.
Or you could be like me, you could be Russian and wear a huge one.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess. Well, you wear a tracksuit? Are you like a gutnip?
No, I'm not gopnik. Okay. But I do have the mug in the vid that's about like almost size of a silver dollar.
Wow. You should be the Hebrew Hammer.
Yeah, but that's because I was like back when I was in Russia, I was in like all the Zionist stuff. So from that, I still have a habit of doing it.
I think that the main reason that in an Orthodox shul, like in a from Orthodox shul, like in but the curtain in front of the Aron, what's called the parochet, and there where they won't even have Stars of David. Because there's a halacha, I don't. It must be this reason. There's a halacha. It appears in Shulchan Aruch like this. I'm pretty sure it appears by the Rambam like this also, that you're not allowed to make the shape of stars, because stars were worshipped. So, I mean, I don't know how literal that should be taken, but if you take it literally, then you're not allowed to have a Star of David.
But I think the Star of David only appeared somewhere in the Middle Ages. It's not like a...
It has nothing to do with Judaism. I mean, it's actually, from the occult. It did appear in Kabbalah first, by the way. In Kabbalistic literature, they use a lot of weird things. Even the tarot card readings come from that. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Even the word abracadabra. Abracadabra is Aramaic. It's like...
Isn't it... the bra,
Yeah, it's like I
But
will create with the word
I
or something like
created
that.
the peak.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the star of Remphan, I don't know if that's what the star is, because I mean, the Black Hebrew Israelites will say star of Molech. Any star, they'll.
I know that one always cracks me up. I'm like, how do you know it's from Moloch? What's your archaeological evidence of what the representation of Moloch was?
Yeah, when people know very little about religion, and I'm gonna, throw like Mizrahi and your own Reuben in this. When you're an amateur, the first instinct is to hate because you want to make noise, and the only acceptable noise, apart from sounds of knowledge, is sounds of hate, essentially, right? Or of anger. It's tolerated because you're angry for a reason, So it gives them some sort of purpose, and they're speaking for a reason. It's anger, but it's a baseless anger. It's a baseless hatred, really. It's really, sinas chinam. But
Yeah,
this is why the biggest dummies in the Jewish world, right? The rabbinical guys who will insult anyone if they disagree with how they were taught are typically Baal Tshuvas. They're typically Sfardim. I don't know why. It's not me. I didn't make it like this. They're typically Sfardim. The only fight I ever seen in a synagogue in my whole life was in a Sephardi synagogue. Okay, it's not a coincidence. Um, I mean, I've said many times I have kippas older than Yaron Reuven's been religious, and they're online critiquing me and critiquing, like, I disagree with a lot of rabbis, okay, but I'm not gonna like stoop as low like to insult Rabbi Manis Friedman like that. Jonathan Sachs, I mean, he's nifter now, but the things they said to Rabbi Mervis, all these people okay, if you want to be a jerk, at least dialogue with them publicly. Okay. Say, look, I don't like you, this and that. I'm going to bring you onto my show and show people how you're a real Amcha, right? Like you're a real Amar Arts, you don't know anything. But they don't do that. They defame and they refuse to debate. So, you're just freaking beta all through and through. Religiously beta. I'm sorry. First of all, I don't insult people. I insult jerky people. And that's because they're jerks, not because I think the term heresy doesn't even exist in my vocabulary. But if I would have any issue with anyone, I would challenge him to a debate, like I challenged Rabbi Mizrahi and he said no. Like I challenged Rabbi Yaron Reuven, he said no. And why am I calling them rabbi? Because I call women rabbis rabbi. I don't care. The title means nothing. So anyways.
yeah, but Yaron Rubin actually did say something heretical in his last video. He claimed that without Torah, we could still have Judaism, but without Talmud, there would be no Judaism.
Well, that's not okay. If you're going to gauge what's heretical and not heretical,
I'm just joking.
By what most Jews believe, I would say that is the traditional Haredi approach. I've heard it many times. I disagree with it, by the way.
Yeah. How can you have anything without Torah?
Well, there are people who say that without the oral law, you couldn't even understand the written law. That is partially true. For sure, you'd be able to understand every ethical law. If not, if you need a guide, a commentary to understand source material, then throw away source material because it's worthless. Okay? Because a commentary, not just could be forged, it is forged. It's man-made. So it's essentially man telling you what God supposedly wrote there. Ethical laws have to be understood on the literal level in the Torah. Ethical laws. Now, I understand that for some laws, ceremonial laws, to be kept on a national level, there has to be consensus. God tells us to keep Shabbat. He doesn't tell us how to keep Shabbat. He doesn't tell you what a malach is, right? So then the Torah itself tells us that we have to go to the judges in all areas of questioning, right? Parshat Shoftim, the mitzvah of lo sasor, of not straying from the right into the left. And they decided, okay, 39 categories of prohibited labor, right? But to say that you can't understand Torah without the written Torah, it means that you're just a follower, bro. You haven't even read Torah for yourself, really. It's so stupid when they say that because they hurt the religion, right? And I appreciate Chazal, but can you really believe? And the Talmud makes hints like this, but you have to understand, even if the Talmud would say that straight out, we could honestly say that Talmud's wrong, right? The Torah says don't follow the majority to do evil. That means if Chazal told us the wrong ruling, then it says the Talmud contradicts itself also in this area, because in Masechet Torayot in the Talmud, I think in the Talmud Yerushalmi, it says, because in the Torah it says don't stray from the right or to the left. So then Chazal say that if they tell you that your right is left and your left is right, don't listen to them. However, there's a Sifra, and it's brought down by the Ramban, that says the opposite. It says that you should listen to them, But of course, from that perspective, we clearly, even if your father told you to desecrate Torah, it says that there's no covet of Rav or covet of Bria. Like, you're not supposed to honor your rabbi if he's desecrating Torah. Like, if he has a piece of shatnez, like a mixture of wool and linen on his clothing in front of everybody, you're supposed to tear it off. So whatever. All right. Where's everybody at? Guys, like the show, follow the host. Like and follow. Like. Follow. Where's everybody at?
You got a guest.
No, I'm saying, like, where the haters at? Because when I'm not around in different rooms, people are saying, boy, they're talking crap about you. I'm like, man, I'm the most accessible. I'm not the hardest working rabbi. I'll give that to your own Reuven. he's the James Brown of the rabbinical world. He works hard. In terms of publicity, I just don't do that much. I work for a living, right? And not in rabbinics. Are you Ashkenazi? You look a little Sephardi. I'm a coconut. So a coconut is brown on the outside and white on the inside. When I was growing up, they'd call that an Oreo. But that was derogatory. I say, why are you acting all white and stuff? That white man right over there. So I'm a convert. There's a misconception that people think that if you're Hispanic, that you'll be accepted more in the Sephardi world. Nope. Sephardim are very cliquish. Ashkenazim, because they're the West, essentially, they're a bit more open-minded. I've felt always more comfortable there.
Right, aren't you supposed to basically go by whoever converted you, right? So if you converted to Ashkenazi, you're Ashkenazi?
No.
No?
There's no law like that.
So what, you decide on your own after converting?
For sure, absolutely. 9 out of 10 times, if you convert, it's going to be an Ashkenazi based in converting you, because most Sephardim, aren't big enough in America to even perform conversions. In New York, there are, but it's not common. In Israel, Sephardim outnumber Ashkenazim, but not in America. So most, members of the RCA and stuff like that who deal with Geirus are typically Ashkenazim. So no, you don't. Now, I've heard some people not want to convert people or sponsor them if they decided to be Lubavitch or something like that, but they're not supposed to do that. It's just a minhag. It's not even a real minhag. Right, in the time of Chazal, there were no Sephardim and Ashkenazim, right? There was the one law.
Yeah.
All right. So where are the haters at? Let's see. I'm going to go hater fishing now. There's someone with a fist here. It looks like a Americana thing. Let's see.
Yeah, I used to have a flag like that on my wall when I was a teenager.
Hi. I spent some time in this place called Kafar Tapuach. And this is the last bastion of the JDL in Israel. It was partially was in Hebron. There was this guy, you guys might know him. His name is Baruch Marzel. So he also was one of Americana's right-hand guys. And then he became more political with some guy named Paul Eidelberg, and they ran for something. But the last bastion of the Kach party is in Kafar Tapuach with this guy named Mike Gazovsky. He raises dogs that do search and recovery. So I actually ran kahana.org for around 5 years. Because I'm a programmer. I do everything computers. And so I was involved pretty deeply. And then, I don't know. I stopped
it's all banned, right? So what? It's all gone. I said in the U.S., all those websites are banned and get taken down now.
In Israel, you can't buy a kahana book because it's considered a terrorist organization.
Same thing in the U.S. It's also a terrorist organization.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Most people don't know the Israeli politics. There's stories of the Knesset members would send goons to beat up Rabbi Meir Kahana with sticks and, to coerce them to like not vote for this. Israeli politics is cutthroat. Israelis, the stories of them gunning each other's down. What's that called? The Altalena. What's the with the ship that it was that the Jews blew it up with Jews in it, and as the Jews were swimming on shore, they were just machine gunning them down. This whole thing of Achdut in Israel doesn't exist. Right now in Israel, there's a big protest of the right versus the left, and it's not pretty. But most people view Israel from a very Christian perspective. They think like everyone in Israel is Orthodox, and nonsense. I'm here to give you a little bit.
In ancient time, they had 2 civil wars, right?
The what?
I said even in ancient times there were 2 big civil wars.
Yeah, for sure. The tribes were fighting against each other. Remember the Shibboleth, right?
Yeah, but I'm talking even like big at the time of Kingdom already, when they broke up in North, in North and South, and then had the war between the Northern Kingdom versus South Kingdom. Then the Hanukkah is the civil war, right?
Right.
Everybody always
amongst Jews, and most people don't know that. Yeah, they make it seem like it's like Jew versus Gentile. That's not what Hanukkah is. Hanukkah is religious Jew versus secular Jew. The Syrian Greeks had the backing of. They backed the Tobiads, the Hellenist Jews, but it was Jew versus religious Jew. And it's always been, our biggest enemies have always been Jews themselves, from the Soviet Union to leftists in America. And people assume, stupidly, like the counter missionaries, like the war is Jew versus Gentile. Rarely. As a matter of fact, I would say that the reason that what happened during World War II on the Jews was essentially the Jews' fault. And it's Burl Wine says this, Paul Johnson says this, that it was because Jews were communist. So it was religious Jews, people who looked Jewish, paying the price for the stupidity done by secular atheistical Jews. There's a rabbi, his name is Rabbi, what's his name? Elchanan Wasserman. So he has a sefer called Epo. I think in English it's like Epoch of the Messiah or something like that. So he writes there that God used the Jews' own sin to punish them during the Holocaust. And this guy died during the Holocaust. The reason the Yazis were called Yazis was because God used the acronym National Socialism, because that was the great sin of the Jews at that time. It was nationalism and socialism. Most people don't know that the Chafetz Chaim was a staunch anti-communist and anti-Zionist. And he told all his students to fight these individuals in the streets, physically fight them. The Chafetz Chaim, Shmiras HaLashon, like the guy who wrote the guidebook for Lashon Hora, was very much against atheistical Jews, very much. People don't teach us nowadays, right? You see pictures in the yeshiva wall that this is the Lashon Hora free zone. Even the founder of the movement was extremely against communist Jews and even Zionist Jews, because Zionists back then, by definition, meant secular.
Yeah, I think. I heard those claims from multiple rabbis as well.
Okay, wait, hold on, Ruben, hold on.
Sorry. I heard being an atheist is worse than an idol worshiper.
So there's an opinion like this by Chazal, that kafira, which is really what atheism is. To be a kofar means that you're denying that God exists, is worse than avodah zarah, which is idolatry or whatever, foreign worship. Truth is, kafira is a form of avodah zarah too. Like if you want to split it down. One example in the Talmud like this is that it says that you're allowed to hide in a base of kafira, but instead of a base of avodah zarah. But if someone is what is it? No. It's the opposite. You're allowed to hide in a house of idolatry instead of a house of heresy. If someone's coming to hurt you. But of course, it's not set in stone, right? Because some people say, which is stupid, because Christianity, here, look, any way you cut it, whether it's the Catholic Church or traditional Christians, this is not traditional idolatry, okay? The idolatry post the destruction of the Second Temple is not like people worshiping Moloch or Dagon or, obviously not, because It's just a disagreement, a philosophical disagreement on who God is, essentially. So the rabbis acknowledge, if they're honest, that idolatry post the Second Temple doesn't really have the status of idolatry. They're saying that the status before was real idolatry. And it says in the Talmud like this, that there was like a prayer or a spell. There were a few experiments that the rabbis did, but this is, I mean, it's folklore.
They blinded the eye of the Satan.
Right.
Like,
Of the Yetzer Hara also. You know, and then weird things started happening, like animals stopped reproducing and all this stuff, and they had to, like, So also, like, they made it that, like, real, like, Avodah Zarah was, like, taken away from this planet. So what we have now is, like, watered down Avodah Zarah. And that's really what Christianity is, because, I mean, Christians use our Bible, right? I mean, the followers of I don't know, like, name any pagan god, like, they hated us. They hated the God of Israel. They hated ethics. So how can you say in the same breath that Christianity is actual Avodah Zarah? First of all, nowhere in the Talmud does it call Christianity idolatry. Okay, I'm not saying that they wouldn't have come up with that conclusion, and there's little hints here and there, but it never says it literally. So the idea that Christianity is idolatry is a theory. It might be, it might not be. That we need another, like, Sanhedrin to decide that. And I call Islam idolatry. Truth is, that's just my opinion, because Islam didn't exist in the time of Chazal, like of the rabbis in the Mishnah. So I think it's stupid when some YouTube rabbi will, in the same breath, compare worshiping foreign idols in the Torah to worshiping, you know, like some sort of triune God, a biblically based triune God. Lahavdil, there's a distinction there that they fail to make. And I think God is going to hold them accountable for that, because the Jewish person, the best friends of Jewish people, at least today, are Christians. And if you can't acknowledge that, then you're an ingrate.
Okay? Yeah, especially evangelicals.
Yeah, for sure. Now, do I believe in Christianity? No, but we have to be honest, okay? Because some people say, no, Jews will say with a straight face that they like Muslims better than Christians. When Muslims not everywhere, but in the vast majority of places, every, Friday, they pull up a sword and they say, death to Israel, death to America. These people are stupid. It's because of affluence and boredom. People are nice to you, and these are the ones you're going to attack. The chutzpah, first of all, if the Torah has taught us anything, is that God hates ingratitude, right? I mean, he was upset with the Jewish people because they would constantly complain. They weren't grateful for all the miracles he did. And now he's going to tolerate this, okay? I think every Jew who's ever said anything bad about a Christian who was an ethical individual needs to apologize to them and say, look, I don't believe in what you believe. I believe what you believe is wrong, okay? But you're still a good person. This idea, only because someone disagrees with you on a ceremonial issue, right? Because Christians aren't saying that you could unalive people on Wednesday and I don't know, like mistreat women on Tuesday, right? It's a debate on the unity of God. Whatever. I mean, Jews do the same thing. I mean, the Sefirot are what? Okay. I mean, 10 emanations of one God, and it's kind of perverted things also, right? Because Christians don't talk about God having a penis and a vagina and having sex with himself in the sky. Okay. And they're like, well, Asher, don't take that literally. That's not what he means. The Kabbalists, the Mekubalim who wrote that, took it literally. Nowadays, with Art Scroll Judaism and Art Scroll, Aryeh Kaplan and everything, we try to like harmonize the Rambam with the Arizal. It's never going to happen in real life. So I view Kabbalah a lot more destructive than 27 books of a New Testament. Okay. And I don't study either.
I view Kabbalah as fully disposable. I don't even bother with it.
It wasn't really that much of a thing until like the past 100 years for the mainstream people, I feel like.
Maybe
people have Kabbalah centers now. I don't know.
Oh, that
was separate.
That's like
Madonna. I know that's not really Kabbalah, but like it became mainstream.
Yeah, I mean it is Kabbalah, but it's not like they're not discussing like Pulsa Denora, putting spells on people, and they play with like God's name. I mean that's like a huge marketing thing. The Berg family, they made millions off the Kabbalah Center. I mean, there's one here in South Florida. There's two of them. I mean,
weren't they selling Kabbalah water in bottles also?
Well, Lubavitchers do that with like the water of the Rebbe's mikvah.
But I think they learned it from the Bergs because the Kabbalah Center was selling the Kabbalah water.
Marketing.
I forgot which one it was, Rambam or Ramban. One of them didn't believe in Kabbalah at all. And the rabbi, it was Rambam?
Rambam.
It was supposedly the Rambam, but it's not that he didn't believe it. It just didn't exist in his time. Lurianic, like, Kabbalah based in the Zohar didn't exist in the time of the Rambam. So it's not like he didn't believe it. He just didn't know about it. Right? So he didn't believe in reincarnation. He didn't believe in demons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the idea of adut, the unity, I was reading Midrash says, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but...
I've never heard of it.
Oh, really?
No, of course I know what Midrash is.
I realized you're being sarcastic. I was reading there in Melachim, I think too, the 10 tribes, they did the worst of errors. They didn't keep anything. They had the calves or whatever. But the one thing, the reason why they never got exiled was they never spoke Lashon Hara with each other. You know, they had unity, but once they did that, that's when the Assyrian Empire came and took them out.
Yeah, no, it's for sure Medrash. No, there's some stories that teach that the massacres of Takht or something happened because people were speaking like during shul, like during davening. Some people say silly things. It's like nowadays, right? But we're counting the Sphira. Well, so they say that the reason we have to count that we're mourning in a state of mourning of Avelut during the counting of the Omer is because 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva were killed? Or how many?
24,000.
44,000.
44?
And it says,
oh, wow.
Why were they killed? According to the Medrash, is that they didn't show each other kavod, like honor, for themselves. You're telling me that we should worship a God who massacres people just because they're not nice to each other? I mean, I don't know. Not showing kavod towards someone is not being mean to them necessarily. It just means, like, I don't know, like not standing for like a Talmud Chacham, not calling someone sir. It doesn't mean that you're being mean to them. It means that you're not just, showing them the honor they deserve. Like a king being mavato his kavod is like not making people stand in his presence or refer to him properly. But it's stupid. There's other sources that teach that's not the reason why. Rabbi Akiva is known for being the supporter of Bar Kokhba that was massacred when they tried to overthrow the Romans, or kick them out of the land, and the students were killed by the Romans. Right, so only because there's a medrash doesn't mean you have to take it literally. But tell that to every Makubu who has a YouTube channel.
Yeah, well, they say don't listen. I forgot what the expression is with the midrashim. Like it says Moshe Rabbeinu was 40 amot high. I don't think Moshe is really 40 amot high. That's huge.
Yeah, or is it Og? It says Og.
Like Moshe jumped 40 amot high, and then his sword is 40 amot, something like that. I forgot.
Because Og also there's Og that says that during the Mabul, during the flood, like he jumped from mountain to mountain. There's this giant named Og. He was a king.
Yeah.
Midrashim are, whatever.
No, I think Rabbi Daniel Gladstein said that don't listen to everyone who listens, who takes every midrashim literally is a fool, and everyone who doesn't take every midrashim some midrashim seriously is also a fool. Like some
Rambam says this.
Rambam said some are.
Yeah. Also, people say that about the stories of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov also walked on water too, right?
He's done everything.
Yeah, but there's some people who would they'll build a whole Torah ethical lesson like off of a medrash. I'm like, or like worse, off of gematria. For
Baal Shem Tov is
gematria. What?
Yeah, Baal Shem Tov is like Chabadnik's Jesus.
Right. Yeah, I guess. Like the New Testament is like the Tanya, like for Lubavitch.
Yeah.
Satmar Rebbe said it's about the Baal Shem Tov. Okay. Which? And Rav Yolish? I spent Shabbos in Kiryas Yol in Monroe, and everyone who spent Shabbos there, like you daven in the big synagogue, like in the big shul, they bring you up front to meet the Satmar Rebbe. Rav Aaron, because I know there's Rav Zalman Leib, but he's in Williamsburg. So I met the Satmar Rebbe. Not that I'm a big fan of Satmar, but I don't know, whatever. Next, Satmar has more converts than Baal Shuvas. I guess most people don't know that. Okay, fine.
What, actually?
Yeah, for sure.
Convert to Satmar?
Of course. What are you talking about? And also, there's a big Yemenite community. They brought a lot of Yemenites to Monroe, which is upstate New York. Yeah. No, you could convert to Satmar. But they have a Beis Din. It's called the CRC, but it's a different CRC than the like Chicago Rabbinical Council. Yeah, but it's
I mean, I'm not surprised that you could convert it. I'm just thinking, out of everything, picking something so like
That makes
Haredi.
sense. You know, it makes sense that you'll have more converts than Baal Teshuvas there. Because Baal Teshuva, first of all, it's impossible to get a Jew to do anything. Okay, I mean, I was an outreach worker in Israel, like in Hebrew University. It's like you have to get them drunk first, okay, and then like convince them. All right, here. I mean, spend 1 week in yeshiva, or sometimes we talk to like birthright kids and get them to extend their stay because the organization that I still work for is funded by who's this guy, Aaron Wolfson, and all these guys in New York that they'll pay kids on birthright to extend their stay in Israel just so they can learn in yeshiva. You know, so they'll pay for their ticket back. But it's so hard. Yeah, it's so hard to get someone who's secular Jewish. It's easier to convert a Christian to Orthodox Judaism than to get a secular college Jewish kid to do tshuva. Okay.
Well, it's because it's too expensive also for those college kids to go to yeshiva in Israel. It's crazy expensive.
No,
like if people go to college in the U.S.,
people go for free.
It's free. What are you talking about? Yeshiva in Israel is free.
Only for the non-religious, I guess. If you turn a non-religious religious, then it'll be free.
I'm somewhat religious. I went for free to Or Sameach.
FFB people, people who are from birth, there's so many yeshivas for them. There's only a handful of Baal Teshuva yeshivas, right? I mean, I could count them.
I know.
Let me see.
My friends, their daughter is supposed to go to seminary, and it's $35,000 a year.
Yeah, but if you don't have the money, well, they don't make you pay.
It's crazy.
They're never going to turn you down because of money. Okay, I mean, they'll put her in somewhere.
But sure, H does it for free. If you guys heard about it.
H will do it for free, or Sameach do it for free. There's Chappelle's. There's what's the Machon Meir. I mean, I guess they go to Badayan, which is like the hippie commune yeshiva if you're a hippie. I mean, there's yeshivas of Kotel, but that's more Israeli, but they have an English program. There's tons of them. I mean, Nativ Aryeh, tons of yeshivas that you don't got to pay. I mean, there's a crackhead yeshiva, which is diaspora yeshiva. Well, that one's for I mean, they'll probably pay you to go to that one. Yeah, cops are always raiding it, because all the drugs, that's the kids go there. No, you don't gotta. I mean, if you're non-Jewish, I mean, they'll make you pay. I.e., why would a non-Jewish person go to yeshiva there? I mean, to convert, because there's some yeshivas who have conversion programs. Okay, some yeshivas would quicker accept converts. I'll tell you, as a convert, it was hard for me to find a yeshiva, mainly because they don't know what to do with you. Converts are overly frum and don't know anything. So that's different than about tshuva. About tshuva is like he'll walk into like shear with like shorts on and stuff like that, and this person doesn't care to know everything. But when I was looking for yeshiva, I didn't know anything. I mean, I converted, but I had a black hat and a black jacket on. Right? This is just the way converts are. Like, it's hard to place us because we're not really Baal Teshuvas. We're as sincere as any Haredi Jew, but we just happen to know nothing about Judaism. While Baal Teshuva is kind of like, my grandmother before she died told me to at least visit yeshiva once, or something weird. It's a different
world. I'm Baal Teshuva.
A convert is they're reborn, so like it's not.
Yeah, you're not an American Baal Teshuva, like Reuven.
Yeah.
These Baal Teshuvas, I have nothing in common with them. I mean, these guys listen to like Fish, and they're like hippies, and they're like all super beta, and I'm like here with like a gun and a whip, and it's just not. It's different. I'm like a cowboy, I have nothing. It's like dating in Israel. When I was like going on whatever, I mean, I went on shidduch dates in Israel. Worst time. I mean, Jewish women are not like Jewish women don't like me because I'm very, I don't want to make it seem, I'm a top G. I'm a masculine guy, and they don't like that for some reason. I mean, they like a guy who whatever. I don't know. American Jewish women are very hard to date. I dated an Ethiopian girl in Israel.
The Jappy
Dating
ones
doesn't
are
mean
not easy.
yeah,
Continue.
but
Continue.
dating in the Jewish world, in the frum world, doesn't mean like I went out and I picked her up in my car and all this stuff. No, it means that your shadchan, your matchmaker, will arrange a date for you, and then you will either meet in a hotel lobby or whatever. I mean, somewhere where you can talk, and that's a date for like 2 hours, and then you don't exchange telephone numbers. You have to go back to your matchmaker and tell them if you want to have another date. So maybe they wanted to have another date with me, but I didn't want to have. I mean, I couldn't. There's no way. They're very difficult.
That's why I married a Russian Israeli.
Israeli women are
Well,
not
my
my
wife's
cup of tea.
Russian Israeli, so it's not
Right.
Israeli.
Yeah.
Really, there's something else. Respectfully, of course.
I'm telling you, most Israeli women are not feminine at all. At all. Guys, Uncle George here will never lie to you, okay? I'll lie to you about other stuff. I want to lie to you about religion and Judaism. Okay? They're uber masculine. I don't know if it's military service. I mean, even Shirut Lumi, I think desensitizes them. But they're not feminine at all. They don't respect men. They talk to you like you're a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
Israeli women, and I know every Christian channel on Facebook has some Israeli chick with a tight uniform and a machine gun on. You know, you don't even want to talk to this woman. I'm telling you, this is not. No, very religious girls like in Meir Sharim and Geula, they're very feminine, and they're but these girls aren't going to date you. Okay, I mean, like if you don't have yichus, right? Like if you're not related to some rebbe, I mean, their father is not going to. For sure not. And also, like, if you're not a Hassid or extremely, extremely crazy religious, yeah. So, I mean, you could cut them out. But the average, yeah?
Sorry, what do you want to say?
No, I was just going to say that the average...
I cut you off, that's sorry, yeah. Oh, sorry.
I'm a convert. I mean, I've been Jewish for 25 years already, but, I mean, I still think like an American traditional conservative, right? I mean, but I practice Judaism. But yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious. I like hearing like about people's conversion stories. Well, what made you want to convert?
Gefilte. I like gefilte. I do like gefilte fish, by the way. But the
What
loaf.
about Chen?
Yeah, I mean the loaf,
not.
not the jar. With the little, like the horseradish with the little crane on top. It's like, ugh.
Say it right. You're supposed to say chrein, not chrein.
Chrein. I'm sorry, chrein. Fine. And what is that? I mean, is it Yiddish?
No, it's Russian.
Oh, it's Russian chrein? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Golds. The Golds, and I think they're the ones who make it.
Is that horseradish and beets? Greens?
Yeah, horseradish in Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I was a Christian before, and I was a religious Christian. I went to seminary as a Christian. I was actually ordained as a pastor very young in life. And then I just came, a few different like rude awakenings. I just felt that, first of all, the trend, the theme that I read in the New Testament, it just didn't align up with what I read in what Christians call the Old Testament. There's a lot of developed ideas that don't literally appear in the Jewish Bible. So we have to ask yourself, when did God decide, because they consider the New Testament as the Word of God as they consider the Old Testament as the Word of God. But all these ideas are so defined in the New Testament, right? Resurrection of the dead, hell, heaven, all these things that weren't mentioned before. Mashiach wasn't literally mentioned in the Old Testament, not literally, but now here they exist as developed ideas. It's clearly, now, of course, they didn't come up with these ideas. These ideas appeared in rabbinic literature. But when someone studies rabbinic literature, they know that it's rabbinic, it's man-made. They don't claim that something Rashi wrote is an extension to the Torah, as Christians claim the New Testament is an extension to Tanakh or Tanakh. Mm-hmm. So anyone who's honest and is familiar with the origin of certain theological concepts would acknowledge that this cannot be written or inspired by the same God. Because every one of those theological concepts that are concrete in the New Testament only exists in the Old Testament as in symbolism. Like maybe this could be talking about hell, maybe this could be talking about heaven, Satan, the Messiah. But in the New Testament, boom, it's set in stone. And worse in the Quran. I mean, the Quran just took it and just set more ideas in stone that weren't even there. So that makes you feel like this is not written by the same God. It's not even, it's essentially a different religion. Now, a Jewish person who makes no distinction between what's rabbinical and what's in the Torah will be like, oh, I guess, it could be the same because all these notions do appear. I mean, the Talmud does talk about hell, talks about like 7 different categories of hell. Satan, also there's Midrashim that presents Satan just like he appears in the New Testament, right? I mean, he's not just an adversary. So that's what got me thinking that, you know what, this is a copycat and it doesn't align with the original. It's like putting a round peg in a square, hole, so that's one thing. And then I came to the realization that these notions are essentially, because you're not literal in the Torah, only a cruel God could punish you for not believing something that's not literal, right? Because we're all dummies. What the heck do we know? That we read what's there from the plain meaning. If you need a pastor, rabbi, or imam to explain to you what the Bible has to say, then what's the point of having the Bible, right? And being that a lot of these explanations are ambiguous. So then I became a purist. I mean, I believe in the oral law, but I don't believe it how most people teach it, more like in line with what Maimonides teaches on it. But I believe that everything revolves around the Torah, and specifically the commandments within the Torah, and everything else is commentary and essentially disposable. And the job of the prophets and the writings are just there to amplify the Torah. And the job of Chazal or Torah Sheba'al Peh is there to fill in the gray area of how we keep mitzvot and how we can progress in the land in an ethical manner, right? All the takanas and gezeras. And the Torah itself instructed us to listen to this court. And that's the source of the oral law. This is what the Rambam says, that the Beis Din HaGadol in Israel is the source of the oral law. Iker Torah Sheba'al Peh, he calls it. And that's it. There you go. Now I'm here chatting with you fine people.
I'm curious. What's the actual original source for the resurrection of the dead? Where did that whole thing start?
So there's 2. There's Ezekiel chapter 37, and I believe Daniel chapter 12.
So just because of those things that it's now like the 13 principles and everything, and part of the what is it, the Shemona Esra and everything, like it's such a big part just because of those 2 things?
Yes. So Ezekiel 37 is easier to disprove because it's the whole story of the 2 sticks and the dead coming to life. The Torah talks about anyone not being in Torah is equivalent to being dead, right? Choose life that you shall live, right? If you don't choose Torah, essentially you're choosing a life of death and suffering. So God tells the prophet, Ezekiel is where? He's in Babylon, to prophesy over these bones, i.e. give over the message of God. This is the job of the prophet in Israel and in exile, to spread the Torah, to bring people back. So Ezekiel prophesies over these bones. What happens? They internalize the message and they come back to life. That's the literal meaning of what's going on. There's many other things. I mean, it could be understood in different ways, but a simple fact that we can understand it in this way means that it's reasonable to not say that there's only one understanding. Daniel chapter 12, I believe, talks about those who are asleep in the dust will arise for this. That could also mean, right, Daniel's prophesying in Babylon, again, that being in exile is equivalent to being dead, and being redeemed is equivalent to being brought back to life. It could mean that, it could not mean that, but a simple fact, we don't have to disprove verses. All we have to do is give a different interpretation of a different reasonable interpretation of what they could possibly mean, to assume that a good God wouldn't expect this from us in terms of belief. Go ahead, Courtney. I know you want to say a lot.
I'm gonna head out though. Have a good night.
All right. Have a good Shabbos, guys.
You too. Thank you.
Take it easy.
Hey, Courtney.
Hey, my daughter's like talking in the background, so.
I have no drinks here. Hey, look, talk amongst yourselves.
Hey, Rabbi.
Get me a fresca, all right?
Wait, for what? Why are you?
Hey, Jiggy, I thought you fell asleep. You've been muted for like last hour.
No, I was just trying to be polite. I didn't want to interrupt anybody.
All done. Rise up. All done. Raise up.
Well, we can talk now. He went to get water.
What's your belief?
Mine?
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking.
Oh, I'm an Orthodox Jew.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just wanting to tell Rabbi, I didn't think that the New Testament was God's word. I always thought it was inspired by the Holy Spirit.
So what's the difference?
Huh?
What's the difference? I mean, the Holy Spirit is God, right?
Oh, you
Well, I
didn't.
mean, we know that's the
Nothing.
question I was trying to ask you yesterday, if the Holy Spirit was God. Um, or I mean, if Judaism believe into that. I cannot speak right now.
No problem. Yeah, so Jews, okay. I don't believe like what every Jew believes, but I'll tell you what most Jews believe. So most Jews, I'm not saying very educated Jews, but the average Orthodox Jew will make a distinction. I mean, he'll call all of Tanakh the Word of God, but it's not. Okay, I mean, it's holy in the sense that it's set apart and it's there to bring you back to the actual Word of God. I mean, what does the Torah say the Word of God is? It means, it says what was given to the Jewish people, or what began on Mount Sinai and ended in the book of Deuteronomy. Those are the literal words of God, right? Nowhere in the Torah does it endorse us writing books and calling them the books of the prophets. And every year we feel that the end of the world is going to happen because of how we interpret those books. Those could be special books. They could give you insight of what the Torah is talking about, but it shouldn't properly be compared to the commandments that appear, from Exodus 20 to the end of Deuteronomy. So, yeah.
So I want to comment on that.
Yeah.
Whenever Jiggy,
Jiggy Flocka V.
sorry, I'm tired. I
It's like a
apologize.
Russian Puerto Rican. Because most Puerto Ricans are called like Flaco, but you're like Flacovi. Well, I guess it would be like a Jewish Puerto Rican. Jiggy, like a black Jewish Puerto Rican. All right, never mind.
What?
Yeah, no, it's like Dukovic. All right, never mind. All right, Courtney, go ahead.
Okay, so you know how you said the Tanakh, or really Nach, is holy in the sense that it's meant to bring you back to Torah, right?
Yeah. Or to amplify the Torah, yeah.
Okay. So now, how do you hold that stance whenever you believe that the prophets are not to be used as an almanac, or that no one told them to write their books down, right? Like Isaiah wasn't told to go write a book, blah, blah, blah. So my point is how can you say that they're there to bring you back to Torah? Technically, by that stance, they're irrelevant.
No. Not that God allowed them to be written or endorsed their existence just to bring you back to Torah. But the rabbis that did felt that it was going to strengthen people's religiosity. The understanding is that the Torah was outlawed in the time of the Syrian Greeks. Right? I don't know how true this is, but this is what the legend teaches. That during the Maccabee story, that the Jews weren't allowed to study Torah anymore. So they unleashed these books on Israel, known as the prophets. And they would read a portion of the prophets that would in some way align with a portion of the Torah, just so they could not forget the Torah. But it wasn't always there. So it's there to essentially bring you back to the initial message, but it was never meant for it to replace it or to be in addition to it. Yeah. Guys, like the show, follow the host, because we have to get these numbers up.
I have a couple questions, I think, in the...
These are rookie numbers, guys. Rookies.
Maple has a question or something.
Yeah,
Oh,
he was
that's-
asking. You said that all the Orthodox believe that the entire Tanakh is the Word of God, but I think that's only Hasidic believe that, because I went Litvish and they never said that. They only believe the Torah is from God. The rest is just like inspired work.
It's funny. I've heard myself say it, obviously, and I've never heard an Orthodox rabbi explain it like I did. They typically don't answer these questions because most Jews don't study Tanakh. If you can
I
find
asked it and that's how I was answered.
Okay, so I challenge anyone to find me one web page anywhere that doesn't say that all of Tanakh is the Word of God.
Tovia Singer says it all the time. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like literally every other word out of his mouth. And I think he represents both majority of Orthodox Judaism.
Yeah,
I mean,
mainstream
Maple,
Judaism.
yeah, very much. I mean, Maple, I don't think you could disagree with that statement. I don't think he's looked into him yet, but he's pretty Orthodox for the
Now,
time.
most Jews don't give responses that require you to make a distinction between what's in the prophets and what's in the Torah. They just don't give those responses because they don't dialogue with people who disagree with them much. But if they would, I mean, even yeah, I mean, they just don't do it, you know. But I would say an academic or a historian probably would, but they just, I mean, no one does. I say it. I mean, I see a lot of things that resonate with people, like that makes sense. But I see a lot of things that most Jews don't say, obviously. You know, but I could back it up. But the reason I've come to a lot of these conclusions is only because I debate. And by debating, I've been able to sharpen up my outlook for all the Jewish people. I mean, I'm here taking the bullets for you guys. I'm debating so you don't have to. You know, so you could see where I messed up and this and that and not do what I do. Or answer like I, you know.
Oh my gosh. Someone said Tovia Singer does not represent most of Orthodox. He
Yeah, so
wears a
that person
blue
doesn't know.
shirt.
I mean, he
I'm
is cookie cutter. I mean, he's not Haredi. Oh,
no.
I mean, he's somewhat Haredi. I mean, yeah, no, he's for sure Haredi. I mean, he doesn't wear a black hat on Shabbos, I doubt it. But I mean, in terms of like hashkafa, he is. But he's mainline. I mean, he's pretty mainline. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, not in terms of, yes, the average Orthodox Jew knows nothing about the New Testament, but in terms of on how he views Judaism, he's never said anything on his show that contradicts mainline Judaism. Never. I mean, even with endorsing Muslims, that's the mainline Jewish view. You know, like, I mean, you could pray in a mosque and Muslims are our cousins and all that bullcrap, which is not true from my perspective. That's mainline.
That's how I go by.
Well, you're partially mainline. There you go.
Oh, I want to hear what this person has to say. What would Moses do to Tovia Singer?
Rabbi.
Yeah.
God, I like saying that. I might convert to Judaism just so I can say rabbi instead of preacher.
All right, now watch the rabbi worship.
No. I was just making a joke. But what was I about to say? Metatron. Do you know anything about Metatron?
Where's that sound coming from?
It's coming from him, but he sounds like he's talking.
Yeah, your mic is really bad. It sounds like you're speaking from another room.
So,
does it sound better
No.
now?
No, it's fine. I heard the question. It's fine. I mean, what do I know about Metatron? You know, so it comes from the word metatronos, like behind the throne, or in front or behind the throne. And some people say that it's the Messiah himself, and some people say that Christian Kabbalists believe it's Jesus. Is it the Memtet they call it?
I heard some say that that's Enoch also. Did you hear that one?
And I think that, I don't know, where is it? The Gemara, the Zohar calls him like the little Yud Kei Vav Kei. So some say it's God himself. And what else? The angel of the Lord. There's many different terms of who this individual is. Of course, the whole existence, the whole notion is antithetical to the Torah. And this shows how even in the rabbinical world, there's ideas that in some way align with Christianity, okay? Because they call him with the, I mean, even in Kabbalistic Judaism, you have the Zir and Pin, right? I mean, it was there's a few different understandings of what God is, and there's certain prayers that you're supposed to focus on this God and versus that God, but it's the same God. Anyone who attacks the Trinity as completely foreign does not know Kabbalistic Judaism. Okay, you know, from the Partsufim and the Atzilut and all this stuff. And I'm not a Makubal. Well, this is just scratching the surface, but I've been doing this for a while, so I mean, I know them on the top of my head, whatever. Okay, fine.
That's pretty cool. I appreciate the information. The only place I read about Metatron was what was it called? It was during the Second Temple period, I believe. The writings of sages, and their idea was Enoch. But then I found out from somebody else that there's like there's multiple beliefs on Metatron. So I just figured I'd ask you.
You need to get the book called Two Powers in Heaven by Alan Segal. And then after you get that one, you need to get the book called Two Gods in Heaven by Peter Schaefer. That'll help explain it.
Courtney, did you read
Yeah.
the Bible with and without Jesus?
Did I what?
The book called The Bible with and Without Jesus. Did you read it?
Oh, no, I don't know.
It's really good. It's pretty new. It's only like 2 years old, but it basically compares the interpretations of same passages from the views of Judaism and Christianity, like all the contested ones.
When was it written? Is it like a new book?
Like 2020, I think.
Oh, really? Who's it written by?
It's Amy Jill Levine and Mark V.
Yeah. She's a
Breitler.
Jewish historian. Okay, yeah. I've spoken to her.
Yeah, so it's really good. It basically goes. It's very fair, right? It doesn't try to like misrepresent either views or to try to like hide traditional Jewish views. To like try to make Christianity look fake or something. It just gives the honest view from majority on both sides for all the contested verses.
Yeah, I actually emailed her a few times about one of her books. I can't remember what it was. It might have been that one, actually. Funny that you say that.
All right. You have the Quagmire face. What's up, Noah?
What's up, dog?
Wow. What's up, dog? So what's a good word?
How's everybody's day?
So far, so good. So we're hoping you're going to make it funnier in a few minutes.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Pressure. Where do you live?
New York.
All right. There's a lot of Jews there. You are moving to Florida. You bring down your politics. So, yeah. Where in New York?
Huh?
Where in New York?
I can't hear you. What'd you say?
Where in New York do you live?
The Bronx.
All right. You don't sound Puerto Rican.
I'm not. I ain't, dog.
Come on. I mean, you're not from the Bronx. You're from Vermont. There's a lot of white Jewish people live in Vermont. Bernie Sanders is from Vermont. Ben and Jerry's. Isn't Ben and Jerry's from Vermont? Two Jewish guys also on the left.
Bro, I'm so confused what you're saying right now.
Are you high or drunk?
Well, me or Noah?
No.
To be honest, I'm just dumb.
You're just a troll? You almost said it.
Yeah,
That's
basically.
Freudian.
That's the gist.
It's Freudian. All right. No, it's cool. I mean, this
That's
show is
definitely
troll
not
friendly. I mean, as long as you don't post a penis on the.
Please stop.
like you
Don't
did
give
last
him
time.
any ideas.
Well, that's what he did last time. And somebody told me, I mean, I didn't stare at it. I mean, I'm someone who
That's
has to do Hatakas
disgusting.
Dam every month, like on people who come here to convert. By the way,
Somebody said
we have conversions the first Sunday of every month. Yeah, but somebody told me he was circumcised. Fine. Okay. Yeah, so what's your religion, Noah?
Oh, I'm a Christian.
Okay. Are you a religious Christian?
Yeah.
All right, that's cool. All right, so I mean you can't really be a troll. Because yeah. All right, that's cool. So you're like a Baptist or
Yeah.
Puerto Rican?
No, I'm not Puerto Rican.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I went to a Baptist seminary when I was younger. Jacksonville Baptist Theological Seminary. Big fan of Charles Stanley. Once saved, always saved. Eternal security.
Yep, once saved, always saved.
That's what's up. It's funny, Jews believe in that also. But
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, for them, is equating salvation with being either Jewish or converted to Judaism. But they believe, not all Jews believe this, but I would say probably the bulk who can't articulate what they actually believe. They teach that all Jews will make it to heaven. Well, that's not true. All Jews except Jesus. I mean, if it's the same Jesus, anyways, but they teach that they believe in purgatory, or there's a purgatory that exists, and every Jew is going to suffer for a maximum of 11 months, and after that, boom, you'll come out clean the other side. And yeah, that's the Kabbalistic view of it, and this is why Kabbalists have this proclivity of caring for ethnic, pedigreed Jews. Yeah, so I guess that's like once saved, always saved. I mean, it's just as primitive as once saved, always saved.
I ain't gonna lie, dog. I don't even know what you're talking about.
I know, man. I'm out there.
Hell yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna let some people in here.
I'll drop down.
No. I mean, I got Blake out.
Oh, you got the one.
Did you get the 9 squares yet, or you not yet?
9 squares?
Yeah, some people get 9 squares now.
How do I do that?
I don't know. I don't get those also.
I don't know, but okay. Let me walk you through it. I think I remember how Will said to do it. I don't see what you see, so I'm just going off. Go to your settings.
Okay.
And then when you get to where you can do the layout, one should say grid and one says panel.
Under settings. I don't see any of that. Get blocked accounts, unit accounts.
Why do Jews cry at the Wailing Wall?
I don't think many Jews cry. I mean, who cry? Oh, that's what you see in pictures, but not religious Jews. I mean, the religious Jews pray every day. I mean, it's not like, but if you have a Jew, I don't know, like my ancestors or something, it's, yeah. I guess that's why. And
I've prayed there a few times. I never cried there.
They call it the Wailing Wall, so Christians think they're all literally wailing because they're rocking back and forth.
I'm told, so I don't know much
cool.
more.
Yeah, no, it's cool. They don't cry; they just pray.
Yeah, but there's like a layer of like filth on that wall. Well, that wall is actually power washed every month or so, and all those letters are thrown away.
It's also full of those notes in there. It's like it's just jam packed full of notes.
Yeah, I mean, if that's not like a Avodah I don't know what is.
Someone said the wall is willing, not the people.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean,
but I think it's because they see us swaying when we pray, but that's just how we pray. We're like moving when we're praying. We can't stand still. All the Jews have ADD, so we can't stand still.
I think what happened is like one guy started doing it like back and forth just to keep his mind busy. Or his body busy while his mind was busy praying, and then another guy seen it and said, "Hey, that looks pretty good. Let me try that." And then it subconsciously everybody just picked it up.
That's a good theory.
Well, I think it is. I mean, it works. I mean, it's human nature. Humans do that. You ever watch like at a Christian anything where one Christian starts swaying with their arms up, and all of a sudden everybody's doing it?
I heard that it comes from Samuel 1, where Samuel's mother was swaying like a drunk when she was praying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a source for it.
So Muslims do it also, by the way. I mean, there's some Muslims who sway also when they pray, and so it's not such a new thing, supposedly.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I came off the wrong way asking that question. But it was like really digging in my mind.
Oh no, you're fine. I don't think that offended anybody.
Yes, they call it shuckling. To shuckle, I think. Yeah, when you're going like this.
Yeah, shuckling.
Shuckle.
Okay, one more question, Rabbi.
Yes, sir.
Would you take the book of Job as a parable?
Yes.
Instead of literal?
Yes, I would. I have a problem with that book. And in terms of who took it as a parable, I think the Vilna Gaon said it was a parable. The Rambam for sure said it was a parable, mushal. It's a problematic book. By simple one, We don't even know who wrote it, right? I don't think we really know who wrote any of these books, but the idea that God plays with people's lives and just places bets on them seems stupid.
All right.
I mean, I have a problem with it.
I'm gonna drop down and just listen from the. Well, I'm gonna go to bed and start falling asleep. I gotta work tomorrow.
Too much info.
Laila Tov.
All right. Good night.
Okay, das vidanya, товарищ.
Yeah, but as far as the book of Job, I don't have my Bible with me, so I'm gonna try to go off the top of the head. Like I just always took it as a moral of the story, instead of historical event. You know, Satan as the accuser, and God is recommending him testing Job, and the whole Job thing is, you know, he did nothing but talk about God and run through the hoops, but didn't have a relationship with God.
Yeah, what's the moral of the story then?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, I don't think it off the bat. If my parent would do that, and this is how I typically judge morality in some sort of God figurehead on what my dad would do or what I would do to my kid. If my dad would place a bet with me, like I don't know, anything, like if a husband got some guy to try to get his wife to cheat, and it just sounds stupid. It just sounds.
You're being too sensitive.
I know, probably this is like personal.
Yeah.
It's
Sounds like it.
No, trust me, I completely understand.
I get it. I don't know. I like the Book of Job. I think I listen to it on audio just because, I'll sit and fold clothes or something and listen to it. It's really humbling. I mean, I think it expresses how
what'd you say?
human
Wait. You sit in full clothes? What?
fold.
Oh, fold clothes. I'm like, why is it important to know if you're wearing partial clothing or full clothing?
Oh,
Check
no,
the box, you can make
fold.
it-
Sorry, fold. Yeah, no, fold.
Okay.
And also, I think it's humbling because I think it expresses human concern when we go through trials and tribulations. I think the point of the book is to show us that, things happen. Sometimes really bad things happen.
No, there's some nice
And
ideas in there, 100%. But the problem I have is the beginning of the story, right? The way that, because Job doesn't know what's going on, but he's assuming that there's a bigger sort of
and he was right. There was a bigger plan.
Yeah, but that wasn't, I mean, the plan was stupid. Okay. I mean, with the idea that God helped him through it when God didn't even say that it happened because of him, it's kind of like he gave you the disease and then he gave you the cure. It doesn't sound.
So then you should hold that same energy through every negative thing that happens in life. Because ultimately, if you're a believer in God, you believe that God is in control, or
Not me, my friend.
Yes, my friend. Ultimately, your
No.
God. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah. See. Yes. Hold
No.
on.
Yeah. No.
So your God.
Yeah.
Insert. Okay. He either sits by idle
Right.
and watches.
Right.
So it's a test.
No. Wait. No. That's not a test. Only because he sits by idle. What does it mean he's testing you?
Okay, so what does it mean? He's just being a total jerk, like he's just sitting there watching you and does nothing?
Okay.
No, hold on. So he either sits by idle and watches you, okay, or he causes the action.
Huh? Okay, wait a minute.
God is in control of everything. Why is this hard to?
No, he's not.
That's your opinion, and you develop this based out of I don't know what thin air.
Okay, yeah, but that's what I hold. So why do you say I know you believe this?
Because I'm pressing you.
First of all, I don't believe God knows the future. Okay, I'm not the only one who taught like this. Rabbi Gershom ben Levi, known as Gershonides scholars, Maimonides slightly teaches like this. He says that God doesn't know if you're going to do tshuva or what you're actually going to do. All he knows, in terms of knowing the future, in his Persian Mishnayot, he calls it the kohota teva, the forces of nature. That's what God controls. There's this idea I teach, which I think it's probably the most reasonable way to understand the Bible. And I call it Judaism. Not Judaism.
Yes, come up.
Judaism. Wait, hold on. Yeah, don't debate me on this, because this is just theoretical. Okay, I mean, it's fluff. We don't know either way. First of all, I only debate on areas that someone could win on. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, you're talking about like that new religion deism, kind of like that nature, like they believe in the ultimate
It's not a new
creator can't
religion.
intervene.
It's not that can't. Okay. So deism and Judaism. Okay. But so deism, if you look it up on Wikipedia, doesn't have a Jewish input into it, because the idea is very prevalent amongst rationalist Jews, even from the time of Maimonides. The reason it's different is because deism and Christianity, and I think this is best expressed with what we see with Jefferson, and how what's that noise? With how he stripped away anything that had to do with revelation or miracles from the Bible and just left the ethics, because the idea is that ethics, biblical ethics, should stand on their own, right? That's what makes God real. That's what makes God, that's what should get you to convert to any religion, because essentially the ethics, not revelation, meaning the idea that God made something happen, or miracles, or the resurrection of the dead, or all these things are secondary to you becoming a better person. The reason Judaism is different is because God didn't just expect us to learn from narrative on how to be good people. He gave us commandments. So my understanding is that God, because he gave us mitzvot to better this world, right? There's commandments to burn the evil from amongst your midst, to take care of those who are less fortunate, on and on. Why would God then come to your rescue, all right, or in some way know what's going to happen before it's going to happen? I mean, why did he give you commandments for it? In order to help you react to certain situations on your own. So God gave you these instructions and took a step back. And if we destroy this earth, is our fault. If every Jew tomorrow is in some way harmed, this and that, it's essentially our fault, because he gave us the tools and the instructions to square ourselves away. Why would he do that if everything's either ticking down towards some messianic age, or he expects you to ask him to intervene in instances after the Torah was given? It's either the Torah is purposeless, I mean, it has no pragmatic value, or God is a celestial butler. We can have both. So that's my perspective. It's philosophical. I get it. There's instances in the Torah where it shows that God may know the future. There's instances in the Torah that shows that he may not know the future. That means it's a washout.
No.
In areas like that, we have to say that we don't know from a definitive perspective what God either knows or doesn't know in that area. And it's the same thing with God changing his mind. With the same thing, God does appear, at least according to Aristotle and Plato, he appears in the Bible limited. That's hard to deny. I know that Maimonides will deny it and say, oh, it seems like that, but it's really like this. That's out of his pay grade for him to make such authoritative statements. We ultimately don't know. What I do know is that no one has the right to walk around putting anybody down just because they're not able to articulate themselves in some sort of sophisticated philosophical manner on how great God is. They embellish God's existence in spite of how he appears in the Torah, meaning they've created a new God and they're worshiping him. You're not representing the way God appears in the Torah. And the average religious person will say, don't even try to dissect God philosophically, because his ways are not your ways and you're never going to be able to figure it out. But at the same time, the same people, the same theological gatekeepers will build this wall of belief that if you don't stay within the four corners of those walls, they don't want you in their synagogue. They don't want, so they dissect God, right? They try to apply God's existence to our logical standards that make sense to us. Now, I'm just saying that we don't know. Right? But once someone claims to know things about God that doesn't literally appear in the Bible, or is either contradicted or the notion is ambiguous, that's where the dishonesty arises from. Welcome, Coach Gnosis, Miguel.
Hey there, Asher.
Hi.
You can call me Michael if you'd like.
Okay.
You said before that in the very beginning that it was based on ethics and not revelation.
No, no, no. I mean, I didn't say that the Torah presents it like that. That's how I view it. And that was
Okay.
the traditional deist position of Thomas Jefferson and people who in some way tried to elevate ethics from the Torah instead of revelation from the Torah for us to take this book, to our heart. Yeah.
Would you agree that the Torah will be like a set of instructions? Do this, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, at least the instructions
about how
within
to live a better life. Ethics would be like the philosophy of what it pertains to, like do this, do that, the instructions, the understandings, and such, like the commandments. But beyond the philosophy of it, the actual action and experience of putting that philosophy in action, that is revelation. To witness for yourself what the Bible is talking about.
That's revelation.
That's revelation.
I mean, can you give me an example on a moral command, how that would come into play?
How about this? Here's an example. Thou shalt not steal.
Okay.
Thou shalt not steal.
Yes.
Now, I experienced in my life experimenting, first being in ignorance of stealing, and then actually experimenting with different ways of stealing and not stealing, and seeing like how karma really is real. Is like, as I stole from someone, I saw a possession of mine become destroyed, lost, damaged, or something would happen of equal proportionate value to what I placed on the thing that I had stolen. And sometimes the value was, there's extraordinary consequences for stealing even the tiniest of things. And so
that's internalizing a commandment, but that what does that have to do with revelation?
Well, I didn't, when I was stealing, I didn't know the consequences of it. I wasn't aware that karma is real. If you do evil, evil does come back onto you. If you do righteousness, righteousness does come back onto you.
Yeah.
So it's like, so do not steal is really to my benefit and to the benefit of all the beings involved. To not take possession of something that I have not earned or not has been given to me by God or through natural consequence of my actions and efforts that I put into life. We have the free will to express and put our effort and our attention and our willpower into action and produce fruit, produce a result, become more than what we were before by applying ourselves. That's our free will. That's our choice. Our fate is, do we choose that? In the commandments, just like do not steal, it actually does benefit me greatly to not steal and put effort into
no, I get it.
cultivating experiences and results that are based upon my effort. So it's good. So it was a revelation when I saw that. That was one of the last times.
But that's not what I mean by revelation, by the way. I mean only because your eyes were open.
By revelation is what I'm attempting to convey.
Okay.
So it's like, when I stole one of the last things I ever stole was a date from the grocery store. And I didn't pay for the date that I took from the grocery store, just one date. And I come out to my car and my window is broken now. It won't roll up or roll down anymore. Immediate consequence from my action. So somehow between the point of me stealing that, coming back to my car, my windows stopped working. I saw immediate consequence. I was like, the consequences are just far too great. No matter how little the thing is that I was stealing, the consequences were far too great. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. So that revelation of seeing why do not steal.
All right. So that's not the revelation I'm talking about. That's you having your eyes opened to some tangible reality that has spiritual consequences. That's not what I mean by revelation. By revelation means God revealing some spiritual truth to the world, like I don't know, like Jesus dying for your sins, or some miracle to prove that God is real. Mm-hmm. That itself. This is what we see Thomas Jefferson stripping out of the Jefferson Bible, because he wanted to leave essentially the ethics, and he felt that the Torah should stand alone on ethical behavior, not on revelation. It's silly that someone should say that I believe in God because of miracles. No, that you should believe in God because believing in God makes your life and your surroundings better. So, yeah, I mean, I do that. What you were saying, I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, that happens to me as well. right? But that doesn't mean that ethical laws can't stand on their own, right? There's commandments between man and commandments between man and God. And the ones that are between man and man seem a little more reasonable, like they make sense. Like not eating pork doesn't really make sense to me, right? Pork's delicious, right? I don't eat it because God says not to eat it, but not like favoring the poor man in judgment makes ethical sense to me. Not stealing makes ethical from the outset. It makes ethical sense. I'm convinced, like you said, that almost in every command, it embodies the punishment within it. Like, for example, if you work for 7 days instead of 6, you may burn yourself out. If you don't allow your land to lay fallow after the 6th or 7th year, you're gonna like burn the soil, right? So it's consequential. Commandments have the consequence of not keeping them as part of it. This is why evil doesn't exist as an entity. It's the lack of good. So yeah, it's why evil, really, the word ra in Hebrew means more like disorder. The Torah is there to keep you productive, but in line and doing things in order. And what's the opposite? Not having productivity and disorder. So yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
So what do you think about infidelity then? So one commits infidelity and then I guess it comes right back on you with your significant other committing it? Like in what way does that, what, an
It's
STD?
totally possible.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, I get that it's possible. I'm just saying, I mean, if you're gonna, I guess if you live by that idea.
Yeah, I can give you another example in which I dated someone who I dated a girl while she, then realizing that she was actually dating somebody else at the same time. It was like, so I was the side guy of like their marriage and in other types of situations like that. I later on found that when I was in an intimate relationship, it'd be the opposite or inverse situation where now that I have a friend or a guy on the line and I have a suspicion that this dude is doing something with this girl, with my girl. It was like, and then I've eventually found more evidence to prove that was the case. So I definitely have seen karma come back at me, and it's really about how you deal with it when it does come back at you, and do you realize what it is when it's happening, or is like, oh, poor me, another thing that happened. Oh, why? I don't know why this happened to me again. but consequences have actions that initiate them, and that's that law of cause and effect. That's karma. That I would call it the law, as within, so without. It's like I wouldn't have those. When I was a little kid, I realized from playing video games that how I would play the video game is like how I would ideally play in my life if I didn't have any restrictions or beliefs or fears or anxieties. It's like a black box environment where you do anything you want to do, be anything you want to be, type of scenario. So it's like I realized how I played in that game world, and then later on I realized that how I played in the game world, if I had a tendency to steal, if I liked the idea of stealing, I did it in the game world. I previewed, and I saw that there was no consequences, right? Well, unless you get caught, and that's what I saw in the game world. So it's like I took this false premise, this false unconscious philosophy out into the world, and then I encountered consequences.
I feel like you just like blew Asher's mind or something. Like he's just sitting there.
No, I don't concur. I mean, this is different. I mean, you guys believe in the New Testament, and you have different standards for some things that don't exist in the Jewish Bible. But I'm just listening. I'm just,
Oh my
And why are you
God!
laughing,
Are
Courtney?
you what? What?
Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing. First of all, do you even know this guy?
Who?
This coach guy. You said,
Yeah, I mean, I listen to his classes sometimes.
oh, you're a believer in the New Testament?
I mean, who, me? No,
not you.
Yes, I am. No, I'm not. His name is Michael.
Sound like that.
Yeah, my name is Michael.
But she's asking if you believe in the New Testament.
I believe in so far as various verses that I've put into action. I've seen the evidence thereof that it's based in truth and that it is true. Now, various people's perspectives on what's in the New Testament and how to interpret that. I have my own personal perspective based on experience and reading it aloud on Wednesdays and Saturdays usually. So gone through it 2 or 3 times, no, definitely one time for thoroughly so far, reading it aloud, now going through again, just reading Jesus's words. So I mostly agree with the New Testament, and I agree with everything that Jesus says from the right perspective. And outside of those interpretations, I'd say Jesus is not God. He is the Son of God, which is the claim to being a child of God, which is the claim to being a Christ. Someone who has realized their personal relationship with God, so fully that they can manifest God's will instantaneously. If it was a video game, I would call it God mode. You say something and it is, right? So I advocate for Christ because I had my own personal revelations as a kid. I went to the church. I was in the back pew. I was really suffering, and the preacher man said, "Yeah, you want to come up here and receive, receive this new life, receive peace or what have you." I was very young, but everybody allowed everybody to leave. I went over there to the preacher man. I asked him if he would pray with me, and he said the words, and I said the words. He said the words, and I said the words. He said the words, and then I was suffering a lot. But as I said those words, all my suffering just suddenly vanished. I was completely at peace. I felt a sense of love and curiosity, but like, what is this that has just happened to me? So it was a very, very deep personal experience, and then next Sunday, I was very much interested in it.
Like the show, follow the host.
So I came back to church the following Sunday, and I heard what they actually listened this time. I didn't actually listen to anything they said the previous time, but I actually listened this time and paid attention. And as I was following with it, there were certain things that they were saying about God, and I just had the experience of God and the Holy Spirit touching my life. And so it's like the certain things they said is immediately rubbed me the wrong way. I was like disgusted and furious, and I left church and never returned. So I never became a Christian.
All right, so people are asking some questions here. I just want to, because I'm skipping a lot of these questions. So someone asked me if I would accept a conservative conversion as a conversion. It depends. If it's done by religious Jews and not a woman, I mean, that itself would invalidate the conversion according to Jewish law. Yeah, I mean, I think I would. But yeah, it doesn't, I mean, who might accept anything? Okay, fine. Yeah, on that note, I think we're going to end today.
Yeah, really fast. Reuven, Deuteronomy 32, verse 8 from the Dead Sea Scrolls predates Philo. You should look into that. That's where the idea of sons of God come from.
Got it. Okay. All right, guys, quick challenge for everyone. Saturday morning, go to your local synagogue. Show up around 9:45-ish, 10 o'clock, park a few blocks down, dress to impress. Ladies, skirts below the knees, below the elbow shirts, right? Try to keep it, near the collarbone. Sit in the lady section. Guys, suit, top G, look nice. Park your Bugatti like 2 blocks down. Leave your cell phone in your car. Sit in the men's section. Try to buy a keep on Amazon. I guess you might get it overnighted. If not, they'll have some in a box there. Sit where they sit, stand where they stand, say hi to the rabbi, and just come back here and tell us how it went, right? Because you could become Jewish, and it's kind of a power move. Every day you got to do something that makes you uncomfortable, that scares you a little bit. Growth. That's it. All right? Yeah, and follow the host. Check out my website, TorahJudaism.org. Michael, you want to plug in your show?
Do I want to do what?
Like advertise your show? We have a bunch of people here.
Not this time. Maybe another time.
All right. So if you have any questions on what Michael does, you could hit him up, like friend him, follow him. And yeah, thanks for stopping by, man. Take it easy.
Take it easy, bro.